It is 11/11. Make a wish on March 11th. Make a wish. Jesus, help me get through this podcast. Let it be you and not me. In the name of Jesus, we pray and seal it with the blood of the Lamb. Amen. Okay, here we go. Here goes nothing. It's a new day. Welcome to another episode of Girl Talk, Real Talk, where we educate, empower, and encourage the women of this generation for tomorrow's generation. I'm your favorite host, Lillian Vettis. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in on another episode. I'm super excited on this one. I'm going to be really telling and sharing with you all my story of the time when I was homeless. I feel like I have mentioned it before. I did do an episode 5. Go look at that one. I talk a little bit more about student homelessness because I was in college in my undergrad when I went through this. But I haven't really told like the background story of what happened. So we're going to be doing that today. I got my tissues on this side. I got my free Dutch Bros because it was my birthday month. So shout out Dutch Bros. This is the Eclipse with the green tea with a splash of lemonade. Wait. It's really good. But anyway, okay. We're going to be taking it back, all the way back into the time where my parents divorced, actually. I was in second grade. We were living on East Colfax. It's me and my little brother. My little brother and I are probably like 3.5 years apart, almost basically 4 years apart. And we were living on East Colfax when everything happened, really. I just remember there was been a lot of fights that my mom and dad had constantly had throughout the years. I was probably about 7 years old at this point. I don't know how old you are in second grade, but we were on East Colfax and we were really poor. I'm talking like East Colfax where like prostitutes would come and knock on my door type of thing, or people's tires were like getting slashed in the alley type of thing, like for real. Like my dad would be fighting some type of guy outside type of thing and yelling for me to go back inside. Like it was bad. So that's kind of the environment I grew up in. That's where I actually learned English. I was taught by Black people in daycare. Shout out to all my African Americans and Africans. They taught me how to speak English. I only knew Spanish. Surprise, surprise, I know. But they taught me how to speak English. So then my English was kind of broken too because I picked up on the slang and their lingo. So it took me a while to learn English or speak, I guess, properly in the educational system. But yeah, so it was really rough there. My mom was working, my dad was working, but this is already when he started backsliding and going back into using heavy drugs and just drinking a lot and things like that. I saw a lot of things that most children shouldn't see. And me being the oldest, I think I had more of a burden or responsibility that I carried because I subconsciously would always protect my little brother. When we would go somewhere, I wouldn't cry. I remember like literally telling myself, like a 5-year-old or 7-year-old, whatever, during this time of like, you can't cry because Levan's crying. And if you cry, he's going to get scared. And like, I would not cry. So I remember like my parents were just constantly fighting and I remember all we ate was like tortillas and frijoles, rice and beans and tortillas. And that's all we could afford. There was many times when my mom would tell me later on that we were almost close to going on the street a few times. We were behind on the rent like 8 months. And she was like, I don't know how we still had a roof over our heads. There was a lot of spiritual warfare. I would wake up constantly in the middle of the night from nightmares that I would have. It was like this little town home, like, I don't even know, duplex. I don't know. We were, it was just one floor. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. We were so poor, guys, that we couldn't even have hot water. My mom had to literally warm up on the stove the water and then pour it in the tub. And like we had to be in a hurry to take a shower because if not, the water would get cold. Or we had a huge like Home Depot bucket and we would fill that up with water, and then just with the like a little like the McDonald's cups, like the $1 large McDonald's cups or Burger King, we just scoop it. I remember it was just rough growing up, and I just kudos to my mom, like she did that through everything that she was going through. Obviously I didn't know, I was so little. I was in preschool and then kindergarten, first grade, and then second grade. But anyway, one day my mom told me that we were moving into with my grandma, and I was like, okay, great. Like we're going to move with my grandma. Like my cousin's there. My great grandma was still living at that time. All my tios were there. My tia was there. Like it was 9 people in that house. And so I remember I was excited. Everybody in the second grade, like signed a book and gave it to me. And I was super excited. And I remember getting in the car in the back seat and I was like, hey mom, like where's dad? He's working. He'll meet us over there. So I was like, okay. So when we get there and we're in a house, there's literally 9 people in this house. It's me, my mom, and my little brother in one of the bedrooms in the basement in Greeley. It was really fun, and I think it kind of really helped me distract me from what was going on a little bit. But I remember one day walking into my room, and my mom was, so I walked in, and the closet's on this side, and then the bedroom's on this side with the window. We're in the basement, and there's like a couch, kind of like the one I'm sitting on right now, but it's like red, and it has like the big armchairs. And my mom was writing something, and she was crying, and I just remember like walking in all happy, and I'm like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Because my mom would never cry. Like, talk about generational curses of not showing your emotion, but she wouldn't cry, especially in front of us. Like, she would not like to see her sweat. And I was like, what's wrong? Why are you crying? And she told me that she was filing for divorce papers. And I don't know how I knew what that meant, but I knew what that meant. And I was, you know, in my arrogance, I didn't know what was going on with my dad, but I was a daddy's girl. And I remember yelling at my mom, like, I hate you. Like, how could you? And she was like, mija, he's really into drugs, and he's just not good to be around right now. Like, I've been fighting for this for years. And I started literally telling her, like, you're lying. I'm going to tell dad. Like, you're lying. I'm going to tell him that you're saying all this stuff about him. And I think that grew kind of my resentment towards my mom, because I was such a daddy's girl. And of course, when I would tell my mom, like, mom was telling me XYZ and this and that, and she'd be like, no, don't believe her, mija. She's lying and this and that. So I think me for the love of my dad, I guess I kind of took my dad's side for being the daddy's girl. But so fast forward to 5th grade, my mom got a house. So we would literally commute to Denver every day because we went to church in Denver. And people would be like, well, why didn't you just go to a church closer? Literally, that's like 10 minutes away from the Greeley house. And one thing that my mom always showed me and always taught me is like, it doesn't matter what's more convenient. It matters what God's calling you to do and be, and you need to be obedient. So my mom had a calling and a ministry to go help at that church in Converse City. And so we would commute Sundays, Wednesdays. It was a lot of commuting, but it was only an hour, so we kind of got used to it. But in 5th grade, she got her first house. Yeah, it was 5th grade. And we moved back to Denver. It was just me, my little brother, and my mom. So it was just us. Fast forward into like about 7th grade, 6th grade, I think, she finally decided to take a step in her life, as she should, and she got into a relationship. I did not like this guy whatsoever. It was not healthy on the way that I handled the situation and how he handled the situation, because he knew I did not care to be mean or show my attitude. And I think he finally just got tired of it. And I remember one time he was going back to Mexico because his daughter was out there or something. They were going to get married, y'all. Like literally after like 4 months or 2 months of knowing each other, that they were going to get married. What had happened was he was going to go to Mexico and he was going to be gone for a long time. And he locked me inside of my freaking room, y'all. He locked me inside my room. And like I was putting stuff away in my closet or whatever. And then he comes in, he goes, Lily, locks the door, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And he's just like, all of this was in Spanish. He's like, look, this is my last day with your mom. I don't want any of your attitude. I don't want you to be a brat today. I want to just enjoy this time with your mom and XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And I remember like kind of scared and kind of mad and kind of nervous and not knowing what to do, because first of all, what the heck? No, all my like alert was on. So I started like kind of crying, and I was like mad, and I had an attitude still, and it was just not good. Anyway, so thank the Lord that didn't go through. But that kind of also, I think, fed back into a little bit more resentment towards my mom. Fast forward to a couple years, a couple years, I guess you could say. This was all in middle school. My mom started dating this other brother from church, and he would come around every now and then. And I remember like when people would flirt with my mom, I'd be so mad, especially at church. Or literally, I remember one time we were leaving church and I was in the back seat. I think my little brother was on the freaking front seat because he called shotgun, and we had a rule: whoever calls shotgun first gets the front seat. To this day, we still do that. But he called shotgun, and I was in the back seat, and I remember like we were pulling out, and this brother stopped my mom to tell her something, and I could so tell he was flirting with my mom. And I was like, Mom, we have to go, like, vámonos, sorry brother, we gotta go, bye, like literally saying that out loud. And the brother's kind of like still trying to like keep his cool and like flirt with my mom and stuff. But ASMR, little did you know, it's like but I was just a brat, and I honestly now I look back, and it's just because, I was jealous, and I wanted my mom and dad to get back together. That's what it was ultimately. So anybody that was going to be a hindrance to that, I was quick to cut your throat. And so my mom started dating this guy and from church, and he was really cool. I didn't really have much of a conversation with him. And like 4 months into them dating, they wanted to get married. And I remember just being so heartbroken, and I did not like this man whatsoever. Again, I wanted my parents to get back together. So I was like, if I got to do some like parent trap type of thing, like I'm down for it. So he would buy a lot of gifts for me and my brother and I, or he would take us out to eat. Like we would never go out to eat. Like going to McDonald's was a luxury for when we were little. My mom didn't have the means to take us out to eat. Like literally, like I didn't have Chick-fil-A, y'all, until college. Chick-fil-A? Y'all, I didn't know what Chick-fil-A was until college. Starbucks? What the heck is that? Like we were that poor. My mom did not have the means. She was a single mom trying to get it together, trying to get out of all this debt. And anyway, so he would constantly buy us gifts, and he bought me my first phone. I was like in 6th grade. He gifted it to me. It was like a Blueberry. It was blue. I should have brought it. I still had it, but you slide it. It was literally a square like this, and then you slide it up, and the keyboard was right there, and it had a camera. So I thought I was like the coolest person ever in middle school. But at 8 months, they decided to get married, and I remember just being so heartbroken that day. Like everybody had to talk to me because I had such a bad attitude. Like I remember the pastor talking to me, the one that we went to church with, for a long period of time at that point where they met. The pastor talked to me and was like, you know what, like, you need to respect your mom's relationship, because when you have a relationship, like she's going to respect you and she's going to respect that thing and XYZ. And so, my grandma even like forced me to be nice to the guy. It was bad. So on the day of their wedding, like I was really just trying to, like swallow my pride. And if this will make my mom happy, then that's what makes my mom happy. But I was not happy because there's a lot of pain that endures during a divorce. And especially when your parents remarry, there's a lot of pain, a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of resentment, a little bit of honestly sadness, because your heart is aching because you want to see your parents together and happy and healthy, and that's not going to happen. So I remember on their wedding day, all the pictures, sorry mom, but all the pictures, I did not smile because I was crying the entire day. I was sad. I was mad. I remember when the pastor said, if anybody like does not agree with this marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. I was thinking about it. I was like this close to getting up and saying something. And I was already like in tears and crying. Like my cousin was with me the whole night, and I was just crying in tears, and I was so close to standing up at that point, and I didn't. I don't know what would happen if I did. I don't think it would have made a difference, but so he moved in, and he moved into our house, and that was kind of a little awkward. I did not have a good attitude about it. I did not agree with it. I didn't like it. And he would really just keep to himself at that point. I remember him just like kind of like locking himself in the room. When I was home, at least I would never see him ever, like for like the first 6 months or something. Like we would have dinner and he would not be having dinner with us. So it was very awkward. After a while, he started coming around, and he kept telling me like he knew I didn't like him. He knew damn well I didn't like him, but he kept coming around. And he's like, hey, I just want to be your friend. Like I'm here to be your friend. And it ended up working. Like we started building a friendship. And I think it helped a lot because when I would ask my mom was so strict, like ridiculously strict. And so I would ask permission to do something. And if he was there, or if he overheard, or if my mom talked to him about it, he would be like the contrary and be like on my side. So I remember like, Mom, like, can I go up to Keystone for a week? It's with the school. And she was like, heck no, I'm not going to have you go to the Keystone by yourself and this and that. And he was just like, ¿por qué no la dejas? Like, why don't you let her? Fast forward a little bit to high school. I think I was like, must have been freshman year, I think freshman year. As a trigger warning, that's all I'm going to say. Something happened that I won't explicitly give in detail, but something happened that made me feel very uncomfortable. And I think now I didn't know that it was kind of an SA, but it was definitely a form of assault that I didn't understand. I thought it was an accident, or maybe, until now, literally in my adulthood, where I'm like, wow, no, if that were to happen to anybody, that's definitely SA. So something happened, and I remember feeling very uncomfortable, and my defense mechanism was anger. And I remember the next day, we would hang up our clothes outside, to sun dry. So I was like in like a white spaghetti strap shirt. I would wear basketball shorts all the time because I was in basketball, and I dressed more tomboy back then. Like I'm telling you, I was a sneakerhead type of thing. Like I wore J's. If you don't believe me, ask my best friend. She will tell you. I did not know how to dress. I was more facts is what she's saying, because she's here. Shout out to my best friend. She's the one behind the scenes helping me make sure I hit every point, make sure my audio's right and my video's right. So I love you. Thanks, best friend. Thanks for being here. And I was going outside, and I put up the clothes or whatever, and then he was outside and making, like, we had a shed, and then in the shed there was a shelf at the very top, but you had to get on a ladder to get on there. And he's like, hey Lily, me puedes ayudar, and can you come help me? And so he's like, I need to put these maletas at the top. I need to put the luggage at the top. And I was like, no. That was the first time I ever said no to him. I was very obedient. I was a very obedient girl. So the fact that I said no was like, what did you just say to me? And I was like, no, I'm not going to help you. And in my mind, now that I look back at it and actually decompress what was going on, I didn't feel comfortable because I was in basketball shorts. If I got on a ladder, you could see everything. I didn't feel comfortable from what had happened the night before. And I hadn't told anybody. I didn't tell my mom until probably 2 years ago. Again, I didn't know. So I feel like if I had that education, I think it would have probably played out a little bit differently. But so I said no. And I went back inside, and then I went back out to put like the next load. And I just remember he was mad. Like I'm talking pissed. And he went off on me. He was just like, who do you think you are? You don't do anything around this house. Eres una huevona and this and that. Like, derogatory terms, like everything under the sun. And I immediately got so defensive, and I was like, hell no. Who the hell? I don't know who the hell you think you are, but you're not going to speak to me that way. And I'm not scared to be standing up to you. And so I, of course, with my attitude, my big attitude, I'm still working on it. But so I became very defensive, and anger stepped into the room, or stepped into the situation. It got very bad. I think my little brother could speak a lot about it. Pobrecito, I think he also got the short end of the stick about just kind of being in between that and me kind of forcing him to choose a side and stuff like that. But it became very verbally abusive, to say the least. I was constantly grounded. Y'all, I was probably grounded for all of my high school years because I was being so rebellious. That's how my mom put it. And just being a rebellious teenager. And I think that affected also my relationship with other people, because like even when people would ask me, like I remember at church, and even like in high school, like but at church, an hermana asked me like, "Oh, hey Lily, can you take out the trash?" And with that nasty attitude, I was like, fine. Like, why do I gotta take it out? And it's not because I was angry towards her, but it was so much going on at home that's just how I reacted to everybody, because I didn't know any other coping mechanism. Mind you, I had already went to therapy during my middle school years because of when my mom started dating. Like she had to take me to therapy 6th, 7th grade. I would go to therapy weekly. My little brother would go too. We had had sessions separately, and then she would have her own session. Because it takes an emotional toll, and I don't think people understand that. And it's a lot. But I didn't have the right resources or the tools, or honestly, I didn't feel like I had any help or any support. So my anger and my attitude would be expressed to everybody. So much so that I remember, like, after a couple years when I understood that, I literally asked the hermana for apologies. Like, you know what? I'm so sorry for my attitude. Like, I did not mean that towards you. And it would happen all the time at school. I was a really good student. Like, I am good at school. But sometimes my attitude would come out. I remember one time being pulled into the principal's office, and he had to make me apologize to the freaking girl at the front desk because I don't know what the heck I said to her, but I went off. So it was things like that. And it wasn't because I was just being a rebellious teenager or I was a bad student or because I didn't have any manners, but it literally was so much going on at home. I didn't have any support or resources and tools. So it was going to be expressed to everybody in like my friend circle, my other types of authority figures. I think that's what it was, authority figures. It was bad. Anyway, constantly grounded. It was ridiculous. Like, I literally had to forge my mom's signature to play basketball. I don't even think I told my coach this, but I forged my mom's signature because she would not sign for me to play basketball. So I forged it. And I remember like sometimes walking home from practice. It was a 2-hour walk, by the way, where people would constantly have to be giving me rides and things like that, or picking me up because my mom would not. It got really bad when my mom's husband really started taking blows and insults at my dad. He would literally, I remember one time I was minding my own damn business, taking the groceries out of the car, going back inside, and my cousin was helping me, and he was holding the door open. And I was, we were kind of just waiting. Oh no, I think we were waiting for him to come open the door because he had the keys or something. I don't even know what he said. Or you're lazy just like your dad or something like that. Or eres perezoso or something like that. Because my last name is Perez. Ha! Shout out to all the Perezes. But he said something like that, and I was just caught off guard because of like, why would you even bring my dad into this situation? First of all, you don't even know him. And second of all, if I were to call him, you'd be dead in 2 hours without a doubt. Without a doubt. Like I just knew what my dad was capable of. This happened for a couple years, all the way up until my freshman year of college, which brings me to January 4th, 2017. I was doing my chores, because my friends would always call me Cinderella, because that's literally all I did was clean. Hey, what are you doing? Texting. Oh, hey, I'm mopping. Oh, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm dusting. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm oiling all the wood. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm freaking doing laundry. Like, I was constantly cleaning, like literally to the point my friends would call me Cinderella, because that's all I would do. I was always grounded and I was constantly cleaning. And when I clean, I don't know about y'all, but I put on my music. I'm freaking blasting it so loud. Like, I'm like this with the mop, just having the greatest time of my life. Of course, my mom's husband gets home and he's slamming doors, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. I'm minding my own business, whatever. He passes by and he says something under his breath, and I'm already at this point. My mom had already knew that we were constantly getting into arguments. Like I had confronted my mom about it, and we would get into more arguments. Like there was never a solution. So my mom was aware, but I don't think she knew how severe it was until this day. I got my phone to start recording, actually, because I wanted to pick up on the audio, and I wanted to catch him in action, because every time I would confront my mom about it, he would be like, oh no, I didn't say that, this and that. Well, she said XYZ, and I would say some nasty things, y'all. Nothing was off limits. And I was like, heck yeah, I said, because you are her. Getting out of the bathroom, and he said something, and I was like, you want to say something? You come say it to my face. Y'all, I was literally I was so like tiny and skinny, and like this little girl just full of anger. And I've always been tall, but this big man, he's like, what, you think you're all bad? You think you're all bad? We're literally like this close to each other, and we're like yelling at each other. And then finally I was like, okay, well, I need to get the rest of my chores done, because my mom is coming home and I need to get this done. So I had the dishes to do, and I went to go wash the dishes or whatever, and my mom got home, and it was already nighttime because it was January, and I hadn't eaten dinner, and I was finishing up the dishes, and as soon as he walks in, he's like, well, Lily XYZ said this and that, and you said literally the same story that happened for like 3-4 years straight. My mom was like kind of smiling and laughing, she just got home from work, she gets to see her family, and I remember her facial expression just changed, because after she saw us like arguing, it got really nasty, and I think she finally understood, like, oh, this is serious.